Is it possible that the person who just sold the 1914 Babe Ruth card that sold for $7.2 million has more valuable cards in their collections? Let's take a look. Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. So I hopped on Twitter this morning. I had a normal day. Hopped on Twitter, and a Twitter account that I just started following called M&T Trading posted that, first of all, they think that the Babe Ruth card that is now all over the news selling for $7.2 million maybe didn't sell. I'll probably do another video on that if I get more info on that. But the more interesting thing that I was able to figure out more about is that they speculated that Sports Card Talk on Instagram is the seller of the Babe Ruth card, the 1914 Babe Ruth that sold for $7.2 million last night. And so I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't heard that anywhere. Maybe you have. So I went to Sports Card Talk on Instagram. They only have 700 some odd followers, so it's not like it's a big account. And there aren't a lot of posts. It's in the dozens, but they're all really nice photos of pre-war baseball cards exclusively. I don't think there's any post-war in there, nothing that I recall. And there are quite a few with the Ruth. And in fact, one of them is from when it was still ungraded. And they had it when it was ungraded. And then 2 weeks later, in I think June of 21 maybe, or 22, it came back, the 3 from SGC. Now this account is followed by Pete of SGC, it's followed by SGC, it's followed by a lot of big accounts, even though it's a small account itself. It's followed by the big auction houses. So I started researching, like, who is this person? And I assume it's a man because most people in the hobby are, but I might be wrong. It might be a woman. And then there are also posts where, even though in their bio it says collector, singular, they have other posts where they talk about, we own this and this is ours. So I don't know if it's multiple people or a family or whatever. But I became a little obsessed with figuring out who this was. And I feel like I started getting close. There are some clues in the posts, and I feel like I started getting close, and then I said, why do I need to know who this is? I am largely anonymous, and I like staying that way, so why would I out somebody else? And so I stopped trying to figure out who it was. I do want to interview them, so I did message them privately and say I'd love to talk, even if it's just me emailing you some questions. I'd love to have a conversation with this person and just figure out, who they are, and not necessarily their identity, but what got them into collecting, what age range they are, what's their favorite card. I know what their best card is, I think. We're going to get into that. So I went through all of their posts, and I'm not taking all of them because I want you to go to their account, follow them, and look at the cards that they seem to own. And there are times where people will say things like, you have a sick collection, and this person will say thank you. So, or people will say, hey, don't you also own this card? It's very specific, very rare, very rare. And they'll say, yes, I'll post you a picture of it, and they do. So it's very clear that they do own all of these cards, even though I was a little skeptical at first, or there didn't seem to be enough evidence at first. There is, for me to say, this was likely the person who owned the Ruth. And maybe this is public. Maybe people know this already. I didn't, and I read a lot about this stuff. So shame on me if I missed this. So what are the other cards that this person owns? Somebody asked for the picture of the 1933 Uncle Jack's Candy Babe Ruth in the pack with the Babe Ruth card still showing. I did a video on this a while back. I don't remember how long ago. This pack sold for $66,000 in 2019. So it's huge to me, but not like, wow, in the industry. It was big news because it was so rare at the time. They also have 2 Ty Cobb T206 greenbacks PSA 7 and PSA 8. And interestingly, I didn't see anybody criticizing them for the Mike Baker authenticated stickers, but they posted a very defensive defense of the Mike Baker authenticated stickers, saying, when I did a video on Mike Baker authenticated, I talked about how it makes sense on the really high-end cards. And they said, for their cards, and this is where it makes sense, they see a 20% increase in value, or not necessarily in value, I guess value, in sale price on these high-end cards. And they had them on these two Ty Cobbs. These are, of course, six-figure cards in that grade. They have a 1910 Old Mill Shoeless Joe Jackson in an SGC 4.5, which is the highest in the pop report, but I think there's a higher PSA one. A 3.5, remember this is a 4.5, and I didn't find the sale of the 4.5, but 3.5 sold in 2020 for $500,000. They have a 1916 Babe Ruth PSA 4, which sold in 2018 for $250,000. They have a 1934 Gowdy Gehrig 8.5. A PSA 8 sells for six figures. It's in the low to 150,000 maybe. They have a 1917 Collins McCarthy Babe Ruth PSA 4.5, which sold in 2019 for $204,000. They have the 1916 Tango Eggs Ty Cobb in a PSA 2. And I did a video on this, again, a while back. PSA 2 Tango Eggs Ty Cobb, which sold for $66,000 in 2019. So they own all of these cards, or did as recently as a year or so ago. They have a T206 Walter Johnson Portrait PSA 9, one of 6 that exist. One of these sold for $135,000 in 2019. So, that's not the biggest though. The biggest card they have is what appears to be the Honus Wagner T206 in an SGC 5. It's one of the nicest copies in existence. To give you a little perspective, and remember, this is an SGC 5. An SGC 2 sold a year or so ago, a year or two ago, for $7.25 million. And that beat the 3 that sold the year before for about $6 million. So, pretty big deal here. This one person has all these cards. Why would they sell the Ruth? If they are self-professed Ruth collectors, why did they sell it? Do they have another one? And they didn't want a duplicate and they felt like they had a better one already? They clearly prefer SGC. They've talked about it. They've posted some of their very rare cards in PSA holders talking about how they look so much better in SGC holders. So I have a hard time believing that they have a PSA 4, and that I believe that's the highest graded Ruth. But maybe they have a better eye appeal, lower grade. I don't know. I've heard that there are some more that are coming to auction soon. I don't know. I'm really interested to know. If you know anything, shoot me an email at thejunkwaxhero@gmail.com. He also posted, she also posted pictures of their 15 cards from this 1914 Baltimore News set, which is back with the Baltimore Museum, or was recently on display there. So they have a lot of these, and I believe, I've heard again, that some of these are coming back up for auction soon, or were up for auction recently. I don't remember. My brain is mush. So it's at Sports Card Talk. I don't know if there's an at on Instagram. It's Sports Card Talk on Instagram, all one word. I'm really interested. If you happen to know them, let them know. I'd love to get an interview or just to email them some questions that they sent back, and I'll read those questions. Yeah, amazing. I spent a significant portion of my day, I have most of the day off, just reading about this, going through their stuff. Anyway, let me know what you think. Why would they sell this Babe Ruth? I'm hoping to find out soon. Hopefully we know. All right. Thanks very much for watching.